Hello and welcome to the Sky Sports Football Euros podcast, where we're continuing to build up to the big game on Tuesday between England and Germany. I'm Peter Smith and I'm delighted to say I'm joined by Sky Sports pundit Jamie Carragher. Jamie, huge game at Wembley coming up, isn't it? We're all excited. How do you think the England players are feeling ahead of this big one?
They will be excited. I think it was obvious it was going to be a big name nation we were going to face, because of the situation with the group. It was almost Hungary, which, you can't deny you would have been pleased as an England fan or an England player. But the likelihood it was always going to be Germany, Portugal or France. I think the one to avoid was France, but it was always going to be a tough game. So I think it's no way shock that, you look at this and think it's possibly, the biggest game of this round of fixtures.
Absolutely. Just interesting looking back on England's time in the group stage. Obviously, before the tournament, we were praising their attack and saying the defence was a weakness. It's not really worked out like that with the 3 clean sheets and just 2 goals scored. See lots of talk about what needs to happen in those forward areas, but just looking at the defence, what have you made of their performances so far? Because they're going to have to be right on it against the Germany team, which can cause problems, as we saw against Germany.
Well, you look at the record of clean sheets, and that says it all, really. But I do think Jordan Pickford's done really well when he's been called upon. We haven't given up too many chances, to be honest, but I think it's distribution and when he's been asked to do certain things. And I think going into the tournament, he was criticised or questioned, shall we say, really. And I think he's done really well on the group stage. I think Tyrone Mings did really well. He was another who was criticised leading into the competition, but I think Harry Maguire coming in as well did really well. There's obviously been a change with the fullbacks for certain games. Kieran Trippier started the first game, so it'd be interesting to see who he actually goes with for this game and what the system will be. But I do think the 3 teams we came up against, there wasn't great quality in their attack. And I even include Croatia, and I think their great quality was in the centre of the pitch rather than the attacking third. So, yes, we've done what's been asked of us, but I think it'll be a much tougher test against Germany, considering the attacking talent that they've got.
Yeah, because obviously we've gone with a back 4 in each game so far. Do you think that approach will continue against Germany? Because obviously they play a back 3 as well, so present different problems with their own wing backs, for instance.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, really. And I've seen, obviously, Gary Neville. He mentioned about going to a back 3, and that's something that I think the manager will think about. But it is an interesting one because Germany play a back 3. We're talking about we have to play a back 3 now. Well, you could flip that the other way and say, well, why aren't Germany talking about playing a back 4 because they're playing England at Wembley? So I don't think we necessarily have to change just because Germany are playing a back 3. You see that a lot in football, that different systems come up against each other, but we do have that option. Gareth has changed formations a lot in his time as manager, and it may be something where he wants to match up Germany. And normally, when a team matches up against the opposition, it's because they're a stronger team than you. So you do that. You try and match up with them and maybe not get overloaded in certain areas. So I don't think that's necessarily the case that we're playing a team who are a better side than us. I think it's pretty much even with Germany. We've got home advantage. So I am interested to see that. And I don't think it's a given that we have to change or we should change just because Germany are playing a back 3.
I guess some of the argument might be we might get some more sort of attacking play, I guess, from our fullbacks or our wing backs. Lots of fullbacks in this squad, but we've not seen much of them on the front foot at all during this tournament so far. I saw a stat that England have made 41 crosses in this tournament and Germany have made twice as many, 82. What do you think's the thinking behind that approach with the fullbacks? Been a bit more conservative, not going forward as much as they would do for their clubs?
Well, I think that's definitely the case. Certainly in the first game, it felt like that. Certainly playing Kieran Trippier, if you play a right-footed player at left-back, and I've done that job for Liverpool over the years as well. And you're just going in there almost to defend and support the attack because obviously you're on your weak foot to cross. So, I could understand that. I think in the next game, the idea was to change the fullbacks to really push on an attack. And I just don't think it never came to fruition. I wouldn't really blame the manager for that or the setup of the team. I just think the way the team played or maybe the fullbacks positions they took up, it was more down to the players, I would say, in that score. It's interesting with Kyle Walker because we've always associated him with being an attacking fullback. And you actually watch him when he plays, even in a back 4, it almost feels like he plays like an extra centre-back at times. He's playing in a back 3 for Gareth. So it's almost like he's seen as defending how to stop the opposition on the counter-attack with his pace rather than use that pace to go forward because, as I said, Gareth changed him for that second game. So I think I wouldn't be surprised to see Trippier come back in if England do go to a back three, because it's something that Gad's mentioned in terms of the set pieces. They haven't looked strong on that. And I just think his delivery may be something that comes into the idea of playing a back three, not necessarily because Germany play a back three.
But would he come back in on that right side now, his more natural side?
Yeah, I would imagine so. I think Luke Shaw will hold that position. I think I'd like to see him hold that role, whether it's left back or left wing back. And if it was to go to a back five, I think Kieran Trippier would maybe just get the nod over Reece James because of the set piece delivery.
Yeah, okay. Well, back three or back four, whatever he does, that obviously has a knock-on effect on the midfield, the shape of the midfield. Interesting talking point in there. We saw Jordan Henderson come back for that Czech game, come on at half-time, didn't he? Got some good minutes under his belt. Do you think he's ready to start against Germany?
I think he'll be ready. Certainly, mentally, he'll be ready. One of the most experienced players in the squad, a real leader in the squad. What Gareth and the medical staff have got to gauge is whether he's physically ready, whether playing that second half of obviously the last game is enough. I'd like to have seen him start the last game. I was calling for him to start that game and play maybe an hour, and then I think he'd be in maybe a lot stronger position to give Gareth maybe some sort of selection headache. I mean, Rice and Phillips were really good in the first game, not so good in the second game, and then the changes came with obviously Declan Rice coming off a half time for Jordan Henderson. So I just think the fact he's only played 45 minutes and hasn't started the game yet, I think it'd be probably difficult for Jordan to get into the starting lineup. But as I said, I'd like to have seen him start the last game, and then I think it'd be more of more chance for him to get the nod.
Two other players in sort of a situation where we're thinking, will they be able to make the team or not? Quite different circumstances, though. Ben Chilwell and Mason Mount. Jamie, from your experience preparing for big games, and England have had a long run into this one, almost a full week, isn't it? Preparing for this Germany game, working on their tactics, working on their shape on the training ground. Obviously, Ben Chilwell and Mason Mount not a part of that, being isolated from the team at the moment. They come out of that isolation Monday night. Is there any chance that they could be in a starting 11 the next day, having not worked with the team for most of the week?
I don't think there's a set rule for this situation. It just depends on how important that player is to the team. It really does. Now, if that player was Harry Maguire or Harry Kane, I'm convinced he'd play the next day. It's just how important Gareth Southgate sees Mason Mount in that midfield, and especially maybe come up against Germany, whether he had a plan for Mason Mount if Germany were the opposition. And that's what it'll boil down to. I don't think there's too much worry with Chilwell really maybe playing too many minutes in this tournament, but I think for Mason Mount, I think he is becoming really close to being. But I think he is almost a certain starter, really, now, if everything goes as normal. But obviously, this is a situation. Is he involved enough tactically on the setup for 2-3 days before the game, the plan, how to work that? And as I said, it goes back to how important Gareth sees him, and whether not doing that work with the team 3 or 4 days before the game is that much of an issue. And if he plays him in that game, I think it tells you how highly rated Mason Mount is by Gareth Southgate. Because I think it will be tough for him to play. I think certain players, as I've just mentioned, Maguire and Kane, will possibly play in this situation. But I think it just may be a little bit tough for Mason Mount, considering he won't have trained with the team. And obviously, there'll be a big plan to hate Germany and obviously try and stifle them as well.
Yeah, so what are the sort of key aspects then from England on the front foot, and then defensively, what are the sort of key areas or battles they're going to have to win to make sure they get past Germany on Tuesday?
I just think it's vital as pace in the team. I really do. Certainly in the attacking areas, I think Raheem Sterling's nailed on. I think it'll be Saka as well. And if it wasn't Saka for whatever reason, there'll be talk about maybe Foden or Grealish. And I understand that. But I just think against Germany, when I've watched them play, Hummels at the back, how high they play as a team, similar to Bayern Munich. They really try and push up to the halfway line. We saw the problems Mbappe caused them in that first game as well. And I just think pace is vital to come up against this back three, back five of Germany to really hate them, because I don't think they'll sort of sit back. I think, as I said, they'll try and push up and put pressure on England. So I think it's vital we have that in the attacking areas. It really is. And dealing with the system where at times they haven't really played with a striker. They've played with two number 10s behind a false 9, if you like. So a lot of interchange, a lot of movement. And it's just whether Gareth C is actually thinking he'll need 3 at the back for that, or you think, well, actually, we'll play 4 defenders and play maybe a narrow back 4 to combat those 3. But then the wing backs come into it as well. So I think it's really interesting and be intriguing to see the team Gareth picks and the system he goes with.
You mentioned Saka there. I mean, what an impact he's had. Just 19 years old, came into the squad, and I don't think many people would have had him in their first 11 before the tournament. But he's obviously impressed Gareth during training and sees his chance against the Czech Republic.
And that's why I go back to why I'm really intrigued with what Gareth will do against Germany, because I don't think there's been a team picked yet that the majority of people in the country were picking or felt that was going to be the team. So, Kieran Trippier played in the first game at left back. Then the fullbacks changed. Then Saka comes in for the 3rd game, and no one saw that. No one saw that coming. And he was proving the manager absolutely spot on with his performance. And now it looks like it'll be difficult to leave him out. And as I said, that extra pace Saka has, maybe I wouldn't say extra pace, but probably more direct than Foden and Grealish, who maybe want to come towards the ball more to the feet. It may be something that Gareth feels can hurt the Germany back 3 a little bit more, because I do think it's vital that we have pace in the attack. But again, no one can seem to second guess the England manager at the moment.
No, exactly. Yeah, tricky to work out what he's going to do, and obviously tricky in that way then to make a prediction. But come on, Jamie, what do you think? Tuesday night, are England going to do
it? I think it'll go to penalties.
Oh no!
Yeah, I think it will. I mean, I don't think there's too much to choose between the teams. I've actually been impressed with Germany in this tournament, leading into this tournament over the last sort of 12 months. They haven't been great. This is a team who've lost 6-0 to Spain, lost 2-1 at home to Macedonia. I didn't watch the game they played the other night because I was watching the France-Portugal game. But I thought they were unlucky against France. I think they deserved it. They could have got a draw in that game. And if France are the team we all feel are maybe the standout team in the competition. And against Portugal, I think they give one of the best performances I've seen in the competition. So I actually think Germany are better than maybe some of the things I'm reading in the press in the last couple of days. But I would say it's a 50-50 game, and that's why I'm going to go with it going to penalties, because I think England we need to perform a lot better than what we have done. Yes, okay, defensively, but with the ball we haven't been great, and this is a step up in class now. And I think we'll have to improve our performances from the group stage to win the game. And whether that jump is too big right now, because as I said, we haven't been great in terms of opening teams up with the ball. And that's why I'm going to go for a draw and penalties.
Poor old Gareth Southgate, sweating in his technical area. Flashbacks from '96. Do you think England, just on penalties, Jamie, do you think England are better prepared now than they were 25 years ago for that sort of test? Obviously, they beat Spain, didn't they, in penalty shootout in that tournament as well?
I mean, better prepared. I don't know what Gareth does behind the scenes. I'm sure he'll do plenty of practice with penalties. We did. I think maybe with the technology of the game now and stats and data in terms of, going back, maybe watching penalties, the run up, the walk from the halfway line. We didn't get involved so much in that, but we practiced penalties after every training session in 2006, and we went out on penalties. But I do think it's a mentality thing as well as a quality thing or a skill set, if you like to take penalties. So I actually think the belief of actually winning penalty shootouts is a huge thing for this team and Gareth Southgate. And as I said, I think when I've been in England teams before, you didn't actually believe you'd win a penalty shootout. The flip side of that with Liverpool is I've never lost a penalty shootout with Liverpool. So you always believed when a shootout came about that you would win it. So hopefully if this situation does happen, the actual belief of being in this situation in the last tournament, in the Nations League as well, Jordan Pickford making saves, that they will believe they can beat Germany on penalties.
Yeah, Jordan Pickford scoring penalties as well in the Nations League finals as well. It'll be an incredible story if Southgate's team do prevail on penalties. Jamie, we'll find out on Tuesday. Thanks for joining us on the podcast.
Thank you.